This episode is supported by MonsterJoysticks.com. Level up your Raspberry Pi with our all-in-one arcade kit using genuine Sanwa arcade parts. And OneClickPrint.com for your photos on canvas, acrylic, gifts and more. Local craftsmen and global delivery. Hello cave dwellers, I've been road testing this little gadget this week. It's the GPD CD Plus, the lowest priced model in a range of 4 GPD devices available from Droidbox. And this model is currently priced at £184. A retro gamer's dream, that's the claim they make about it, so let's put it to the test. Physically, our clamshell style device is plastic through and through and it just loves fingerprints. You really are fighting a losing battle if you don't want this to look like a child has rubbed its treacle covered fingers all over it, and that applies both inside and out. But in terms of construction quality, it feels pretty solid, very much like a Nintendo Game Boy Advance or a 3DS in both its materials and the quality of the finish. Size-wise, well, here are some comparisons for you. A Samsung Galaxy S7, a Nintendo DS, and it's very similar in style to that handheld. A cassette tape, a CD, and of course the universal measure of scale, Nintendo Super Scope. Actual dimensions are 155 by 89 by 24mm, and it weighs in at 300 grams, which allows for a good balance of portability and ergonomics in an adult-sized hand. If we open it up for a look inside, we can see immediately that it's geared for gaming first and foremost. There are 2 low-profile analog joysticks, which are a little sensitive at first owing to their short throw, but they soon feel very natural and easy to use. And all of the other buttons are positioned within easy reach for instinctive gameplay. There's really no excuse for poor controller ergonomics after upwards of 40 years of gaming, and this is all laid out very nicely indeed. Extended use of the outer shoulder buttons was the only time I really felt some discomfort, but I was playing for a very long time. You can see at the rear here there are 4 buttons, including those shoulder buttons, making up 10 gaming buttons in total, as well as a micro SD card slot to extend the onboard 32GB of storage, a USB port, a mini HDMI port and a headphone jack. Yeah, headphones, take that Apple. So on balance, the aesthetics, weight and feel of this device is in line with the £184 price tag. This is fairly affordable portable games console territory, and I'd say the construction of it meets what I expected of it. Some less smeary plastics would have been a nice finish, but at least we don't have any of that sprayed on soft touch finish that wears off over time. Ugh, nobody likes that. An IPS 5-inch capacitive touchscreen is where all the action happens at a 720p resolution, although we can output at full 1080p from the HDMI port, and that's pretty neat. We'll have a look at that later. The viewing angle is good, it's super bright, and I've been able to play it outside without any issue. Atari Lynx screen this is definitely not. It also proved responsive, which is key for gaming, and the colours are rich too. Blacks may be a little too light on the highest brightness setting, but there's a good balance to be found by just knocking it down a little bit. So, what are we waiting for? Let's see the system in action. The first thing to note is that it's running Android version 7. The latest version at the time of this review is 8.1 with 9 in beta, and the built-in update utility results in this message: Undiscover new version. Flashing it with custom firmware is a route that many people choose to take, and it can yield performance gains, but GPD's FAQ does state that this will void your device's warranty, so it's something to think about carefully in case of an RMA situation. If we check out the hardware, it houses 4GB of RAM, 32GB of internal eMMC flash storage, and 6 CPU cores in the form of the MediaTek MT8176 processor. There's also a PowerVR GX6250 GPU. That all sounds pretty beefy for a portable device, but we'll let the performance speak for itself with some actual play testing. The out-of-the-box experience in terms of software setup is very average, I have to say. The Metro-style UI is organised by system with some pre-installed ROMs, and it's coupled with this Happy Chick app. To be perfectly honest, it cheapens the feel of the product. Happy Chick, which is constantly trying to run in portrait mode on a landscape screen, is a portal to download game ROMs, as well as other Android apps. With a bit of prodding, you can actually find quite a few ROMs in here for a range of systems, but once downloaded, They don't appear on that Metro-style UI, you have to launch them from within Happy Chick itself. You'd think the two would be fully integrated. Manually following these on-screen instructions will get them on the dashboard, but honestly, the Happy Chick is better taken outside and putting out of its misery. I use the regular Android UI as my front end for emulators, and I picked those out of the Google Play App Store in the normal way. It made for a much better experience. That's my preference anyway. Once I chose to ignore the bundled software, I really did stop getting frustrated with it, and I enjoyed the experience a lot more. So let's see some games actually running. No surprises then, the ZX Spectrum is emulated with ease by the GPD, and I'm showing you Jetpack because it was quite a pleasant surprise. Who'd have thought that it plays so well on a handheld? I probably played this for longer than any game I've ever downloaded from the Google Play Store. The Commodore Amiga emulated just fine to the Amiga 500 spec here, running Speedball without any problems whatsoever. The Super Nintendo also ran flawlessly, and that's a really great system for mobile gaming. Playing through Zelda, for example, using save states means I can finally work through the games I want to complete, as and when I have a few minutes to spare. Moving on to the next generation, the N64 is a mixed bag. Mario 64 here is running pretty well with a smooth frame rate, but switch over to GoldenEye here and it's a completely different story. It's a system that the GPD should be able to emulate very smoothly, but it all comes down to the quality of the emulation software. Skip ahead again to the Sega Dreamcast, and there are some playable titles such as Daytona, but slowdown is very common on all but the most simple games. I didn't really enjoy being bumped out of the immersion of the game with every frame rate slowdown. The PlayStation 1 does seem to be emulated quite solidly, running smoothly on the GPD, and the bonus of running on a 5-inch screen is that those low resolution textures almost become bearable. Almost. The GPD proudly claims its Vulkan API support for GPU operations makes PSP emulation run really well. Well, it's not quite there for me. A choppy frame rate didn't really leave me feeling like Vin Diesel in my sweet ride here. So where was the fun to be had? Well, very much in the 8 and 16-bit era, with a bonus splash of PlayStation for me. The library of PC Engine, SNES, Mega Drive, Amiga games, as well as MAME emulation for this era of games really will keep you very busy on the GPD, but I think it's important not to expect this thing to be a 3D powerhouse, nor that you'll avoid the usual trials and tribulations of setting up emulators to suit the device. It's not a plug-and-play solution by any means. Tweaking and testing is necessary to get the best out of it. Its power isn't completely wasted on 8 and 16-bit games though. You can of course run Android games from the App Store, as well as your favourite apps, Discord, Netflix, YouTube, whatever it is that takes your fancy. There's a whole host of secondary functions you could use this device for, making it a very agreeable travelling companion for entertainment without draining your phone battery. And when you're not travelling, if you combine the HDMI output with a couple of Bluetooth controllers, then you're playing in an entirely different way. If big screen retro gaming is your primary way of playing, then do save yourself some money and just get a Raspberry Pi. But it's very nice to have this as an option with the GPD. There's a lot more testing for me to do on this device with many more systems, but I think you get the idea. At £184, the GPD is pretty expensive just for 8 or 16-bit gaming, with some early 32-bit gaming thrown in. You can certainly find alternatives for cheaper or hack a Sony PSP for emulation. There are loads of options out there. But as a nicely packaged device to hold a library of retro games, access your favourite Android apps and entertainment packages, I think you really do get what you pay for. It's not something that I champion as the ultimate portable, but if it suits your lifestyle needs and budget, then sure, go ahead and grab one. You'll find links in the description to find out more. I hope this was useful to you. Thank you for watching, and as always, take care. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the channel using the links in the description, or simply subscribe and come back for more soon.